Hi, everybody. I'm Morgan Bell. Thank you so much for hanging in there with us. We are experiencing some technical difficulties, but we are hoping that they are solved now, and we appreciate you hanging in there with us throughout all of them. Today, I am super, super excited to welcome you all here for this panel. We have people from all across Microsoft, different disciplines, job roles, how long they've been in the industry, and they are here to answer your questions and to give you some career advice. So what you should expect today is to actually get introduced to all of these people, and then we will have that open question and answer. And please feel free to put your questions in the chat as we move forward today. Some of them will be responding directly to questions as well via the chat along with during video. So how to engage? Like I said, use the chat. Upvote your favorite questions by giving us a thumbs up. They will answer in both ways, and we will also be sharing some links for additional resources in case you want to continue your learning and exploring. With that, I am super excited to introduce you to one of my friends and co-workers. His name is Justin. Welcome, Justin. And Justin is actually going to be your moderator today and asking all of our panelists different questions, and he will be doing the introductions. Handing it over to you, Justin.
Yep, thanks, Morgan. So hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Again, thank you for your patience with our technical difficulties, but we're excited to get started here. I'll begin. I'm Justin. I'm a principal cloud advocate here in Microsoft. And this is, I think, a panel foremost about inspiration, inspiring you and helping you find the next step in your career. In fact, there's never been a better time to build a career in tech. Satya Nadella mentioned this in his keynote, but there are new job skills and there's digital transformation that is happening before us even more. Traditionally, we might think about software engineering or more recently data science, but there's even some new jobs. If you think about domain-centric data science like say in the natural sciences, or maybe building a smart transportation system in urban planning, or even in sustainable energy, thinking about using tech to reforest the planet. In fact, we believe that is LinkedIn and Microsoft forecasts 149 million new tech-oriented jobs in all range of things. So with that, I want to turn it over to our experts. Let's begin with the question, what inspired you in a role towards tech? And we'll go round robin first and introduce. So why don't we begin with Jalen?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jalen McGee. I am a program manager here at Microsoft. And what inspired me to get into technology was initially when I was in middle school and I got to build a robot for the first time, and I got to code it and I got to make it work. And that was one of the experiences that really showed me what technology can do and what I can do with technology.
Next, let's go to Lisa.
Great, I'm Lisa Cohen. I lead a data science team here at Microsoft as part of Microsoft Cloud Data Sciences. And so our whole charter is to help customers be successful on the cloud through analyses to understand what's working, what's not, experiments, so we can understand further the causality there, and then modeling to help predict and recommend next steps as well. As far as what inspired me for technology, I've always been really excited about the way that we can use modeling to kind of explain these world phenomena, whether it's from school and physics or chemistry, linear algebra, and then, you know, in my current role, that's, you know, a lot of what we're doing, kind of modeling these business scenarios with math and data, and using that to really structure our approach. And I think as far as just technology, it's core to everything that we do in our life and our day-to-day, and it was pretty apparent in this year, I think, with the pandemic, just in terms of how we all moved to remote and online, and seeing how tech played a role in that as well.
Yep, absolutely, Lisa. Next, let's go to Donna.
Hi, everybody. My name is Donna Taylor. I am a principal program manager for the Content and Learning organization. And my background is all around process improvements, project management methodologies. I'm certified in change as a change practitioner, as well as I have a black belt in Six Sigma. And I will say technology for me, it's, I always classify myself as an ideal person. So technology isn't only about coming up with the new ideas, it also involves figuring out how to make those ideas work. And that's always been super interesting to me. I'm a puzzler. I like to do crossword puzzles and jigsaw puzzles. And so I see this as just another puzzle. And I enjoy it. I've been doing it for over 20 years.
Yeah, I like that puzzle metaphor. That's great, Donna. Next, let's go to Ornella.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ornella Altunian, and I'm a cloud advocate here at Microsoft. What inspired me was actually something that happened to me in college. I never thought that I was going to study computer science, and then decided to take the intro class just out of curiosity. And my professors for that class were 3 women. And that was something that really, really inspired me because I had never seen people like me teaching computer science. So I think that's really what motivated me to keep going.
That's great, Ornella. Next, we'll move to Thomas.
Hi, everyone. I'm Thomas Lewis. I'm a cloud advocate at Microsoft in developer relations. I primarily focus on mixed reality and spatial computing. And what got me excited about tech, I may be showing my age here, but there were these compact computers that looked like a briefcase, and it even had a handle like a briefcase, and you put it on your desk, and then the bottom part flipped out, which was actually the keyboard, and the monitor itself was probably about 6 inches by 6 inches. And there was a very large book that came with it, and because I was nerdy and loved to read, I decided I was going to read the entire book, which I did. And I was just so excited by the fact that I could take what I thought was a television at the time and program it. And I thought, wow, I could program my own television and I could watch whatever I built. And so that got me excited as a young person. Then my intro to mixed reality and spatial computing was the first time I put on a virtual reality device and found myself at the bottom of the ocean, and a whale came by and I could feel its presence even though I was wearing no haptics or anything like that. And so when I took the device off, I said, you know, I've got to change my career path, and that's exactly what I did. And so now I focus on augmented and virtual reality solutions.
Yeah, it's super inspiring, Thomas. I remember that feeling myself at a student hackathon once, putting on a mixed reality device. And finally, let's go to Jasmine.
Hi, I'm Jasmine Greene. I am a cloud advocate at Microsoft, and my background is in web development. That's how I got started. But what really inspired me was just the ability to build. I spent a lot of time, in the early, I know I'm dating myself here, in the early 2000s when we got the internet in our home. I spent a lot of time, trying to learn how to build websites and learning how to use, MySpace and things, and like how to, change like the colors and all those types of things. And that kind of really propelled my interest at first. And then when I got to college is when I decided to switch my major to software engineering after taking an introductory course.
Yeah, most excellent. One of the things I think that's so interesting about all of y'all's stories is that they weren't necessarily linear or obvious, that you discovered technology through different means. Might have been a magic moment by which you first explored, or a moment by which technology transformed you and you became part of that career. So let's go to a question. I really like this question from Nate. I recently started my first industry position after graduating with a degree in data science. Do you have any tips for overcoming imposter syndrome? And panelists, feel free to all chime in as you like.
I would love to chime in on that if possible.
Yes, go ahead, Thomas.
I hate to say this, I've been in the industry way over 20 years. The imposter syndrome never goes away. And part of that is because you're always trying to do your best. So you're going to look at others and you're going to see what they do and you're going to be like, wow, I can definitely improve, what it is that I'm doing. The good part is that one, everybody wants you to succeed. There's no one who wants you to fail. And the second part is most likely you are where you are because of your talent and your skills and your ability. When people come to Microsoft and I talk to them for the first time, they feel overwhelmed, but I absolutely tell them, you know what, you can talk to just about anybody here and you may think that, oh, they have it all together. And it turns out that when you talk to them, you'll find out that they don't. I've been sitting backstages at lots of keynotes and I have seen executives who do perfectly on stage, actually absolutely nervous in the back. So it doesn't go away. It's just with experience. It doesn't affect you as much and you know that you are to be where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think since Nate asked about data science, Lisa, do you have any advice to offer for imposter syndrome in the data sciences?
Sure. Yeah, I think in data science and then just even more generally in tech, like there's going to be an infinite number of things to learn. And so I think the approach that I like to recommend for this is one, just acknowledging, I think as Thomas raised, that no matter how far you are in your journey, there's always going to be more. And so I think just kind of structuring it in kind of like a healthy self-reflection way, saying, okay, what are the most important things for me to learn next? Balancing that with also knowing what are your strengths and the experiences that you have today, and finding roles where you can, finding projects and opportunities where you can have a balance across those, and then create a a plan, whether that's through projects, mentorship, or whatnot to cover in the remaining areas.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a great segue to a great question from Jing, which says, do you have any advice on whether or not and how we should find a field to focus on? I love exploring different things, but I'm not really sure where my career can go, or whether I should choose depth or range. So let's begin with there.
I can quickly kick that one off. Yeah, I think I'm pretty passionate around this because I think, yeah, sometimes we feel like, probably it's going back to the last question, you need to kind of be deep in one area to know everything about it. And there is something to be said for kind of establishing yourself as a subject matter expert, especially starting out in any area. So, you can kind of get your head around that domain and innovate, and people get to know you for that. But I do think, like, as you progress through your career, those different experiences end up just having a huge impact in terms of giving you a broader perspective on your approach. So I actually started out at Microsoft in the PM discipline and Visual Studio and a different product, and moved into data science for the cloud. And so, at this point, I leverage frameworks and approaches that I learned from each of those. So definitely find it valuable to have that breadth. And there's actually a book called Range that kind of talks about the value about that too.
Awesome.
I can chime in on that too. So I'm earlier in my career at Microsoft, and I've been in a couple of different roles. So I started as a PM in mixed reality, then I was a content developer for Visual Studio Code, and now I'm a cloud advocate for education. And I think something that I've learned through all of that is that it takes a lot of experimentation and trying new things to figure out what your passions are. For me, it was working as a content developer and realizing that I was really curious about making content specifically for beginners. And so it made sense to me to choose my next, role in education cloud advocacy. So I think it's really valuable in the start of your career, especially to experiment with new things, to see what you like, and just remember that the path to where you want to be isn't exactly linear. And so it's really worth just like trying out different things.
Awesome. Well, let's move to our next question. So we talked a little bit about early in career and exploring that, but a question from Jeff, I think, really explores what it means to be a career switcher and to have a lifetime learning career. The question is, I know this may be focused more on students to career, but maybe a question for we long-term IT folks attempting to transition. Any advice for someone who's been in IT for 25 years, now in their mid-40s, and is struggling to choose a path with a cloud focus? Maybe let's go to an expert that hasn't had a chance to respond yet.
Sure, I'll take this. So I think that it's really about like what interests you. I saw a similar question in there, and I would say, go down the path that interests you the most. And if you can't decide, I think you might need to see which one is closest to what you like to work on. So for example, my background is web development, but now in cloud advocacy, I'm finding I'm doing a lot of stuff with databases. And my background was, full stack web development, where I was working on the website as well as working on the databases. And so I had a little bit of knowledge. And now I've kind of propelled myself or found myself in more of this data space. So it's, honestly, for me, I didn't see the path until I kind of got there. You don't realize the evolution until you're already there. So just don't stress too much about the technology. Think about what it is you want to learn and what you want to gain, and focus on, what you're learning.
I would agree with that. Focus on your passion, whatever it is you're passionate about, because whatever that is that you're passionate about is where you're going to want to delve deeper. And like someone else on the panel said, your journey is your journey. It doesn't have to be linear. It doesn't have to be what my journey was like or what anybody else's journey was like. It's just your own personal journey. And so I would plus one what Jasmine just said, and I would just include also just whatever it is you're passionate about, whatever sparks your interest, whatever allows you to have a growth mindset to really just kind of be a sponge and absorb, and then your path will be open for you.
Yeah, Donna, I couldn't agree more. I think when I think of just the range of technologies, as I was talking about in the natural sciences, environmental sciences, urban planning, there's so many scenarios that are new. So being able to explore what you love through the lens of technology, or technology becomes the how, I think is a great route toward that. So I have a new question from Ilian. It's, hi everyone, I'm new to this world, so what's the difference between a software engineer and Microsoft certifications? What will I get? Should I start to learn? So maybe share with us your experiences of on the job versus maybe traditional education and degrees.
Well, I can speak to that a little bit. I'm not a software engineer myself. I am fairly new to Microsoft in a full-time capacity starting last December, but I had software engineer internships, and I was able to see the difference between the software engineering internships that I had and the software engineering courses I had in school. And one thing that was really different for me, specifically with the software engineer internship roles that I had to ramp up very quickly on the code base of a company, and I had to learn how to work on a team of professional software engineers. As opposed to my software engineering courses that I had, we did group projects sometimes, but it was very much focused on the data structures, how to actually write correct syntax in different languages and things like that. It was much less how can I apply what I'm learning? So that's what I'd say I got from each experience. And in terms of where you should start to learn, I would recommend starting to learn by seeking opportunities to build projects with code that solve problems experienced by yourself or members in your community. And that is, in my opinion, one of the best learning experiences, not just for how to write code, but also how to build a product that solves a need. So that's what I'd say to that question. But again, I am a program manager and not a software engineer. So maybe others can add additional context.
Yeah, I've just played with a combination of the two for depending on the project and at different points in my career. I think I do like the structured approach that sometimes the more formal training and degrees have. On the other hand, I like the kind of just-in-time approach as well of learning on the job and being able to use that to prioritize from the infinite list of things to learn, as well as kind of that additional learning that comes from applying something in practice, right? When you see the theory, it's a little bit different than when you're actually playing with the technology and running into those edge cases and trying to get something to work for your scenario. So yeah, I find the combination is helpful.
Yeah, I agree. I think a combination of certifications, technologies are always changing, so certifications can be very useful and helpful for as you're pursuing new things, where perhaps your degree is something that is foundational. You're teaching yourself to learn, and you have a lifetime of learning ahead of you. As maybe we were talking about a little bit with imposter syndrome, part of the way to not feel as an imposter is to be a lifetime learner in technology and such. Well, let me go to a question around Microsoft. What does a typical workday for you look like at Microsoft, and how has that changed throughout your career? Maybe if we could go to Ornella. I know you're early in career, as you mentioned.
Sure. I mean, this is a very difficult question for me because I've been in 3 different roles at the company and they've all been so different. So I'll start kind of in my PM role. It was definitely a lot about like managing a team of engineers to come together to create our product. So definitely a lot of like meetings, checking in on like our agile processes and stuff like that. And also thinking about customer needs and how we're going to build new features. I would say my life now as a cloud advocate is very different because we get so many really cool opportunities to make content. So I would say I spend 75% of my time making content, technical content for students. So that's Learn modules, blog posts, YouTube videos, stuff like that. And then the other 25% thinking about and presenting at conferences or chatting with students on Twitter or just like otherwise communicating with the community. So I think this answer really, really varies from role to role and from day to day, but I hope that's a good kind of overview of the possibilities.
Awesome. Maybe let's go to someone who's had many years in Microsoft and experience. Maybe Thomas, would you share what's a typical day like for you?
Yeah, I would say sometimes mine's a little bit different because I have 4 teams that I lead, but it can be anything from getting an update on something interesting that one of the teams is working on. I myself may be working together with a product team. So it might be a meeting of, hey, what is the developer community interested in as far as content that we build? Or, hey, we have a product and what kind of feedback are we hearing from academic audiences? And so it's one of the things that's kind of nice about our role, because I'm in cloud advocacy as well, is it's very different. So day to day, it can change. So I've told folks, if you're ever the type of person that gets bored very easily, advocacy may be your calling. I'd even include one of the questions that folks had, which was they said, I've been I love tech and I love coding, but I'm kind of burnt out on doing it day to day all the time. I would say, flip that and think about how you can share the things that you're learning and the things that you're working on, because that's what advocacy, I think, is a lot about, is helping others by sharing the great work you do. And the advocates on this panel and in our teams, that's a lot of what they're doing, is trying to figure out, hey, what's the best way to help people upskill on these technologies or to help solve real world problems in very unique ways.
Yeah, I think that is so interesting that in advocacy, being able to communicate technology and to be able to write content and really be a teacher and someone who shares technology in addition to writing code is a fascinating and interesting career track. Certainly would encourage this audience to check out Microsoft Learn. Cloud advocates and program managers and technical writers all contribute to teaching. And so we were talking a little bit about a degree versus maybe certifications, but maybe even a more easier way to get started is something like Microsoft Learn, where you can just try out data science or try out spatial computing for the first time as well. So we're running short on time. Thank you again for your patience with our technical difficulties. I just want to leave one more question for our panel of experts. And again, we're going to post social handles and other contact areas where you can get in touch with them in the future and continue the dialogue as well. Our last question is just, is there anything else that you'd want to share for a person who is entering technology or is looking to switch their careers more towards technology? I'll leave that as an open question to our experts here.
One thing that I would say is, as a early in career person myself, who talks to a lot of college students, one question I get a lot is like, what can I do to prepare or to stand out on my resume? And what the piece of advice that I always give is to build something for your community, or for build something that solves a problem for a community that you care about. Write about what you build and publish that either on a personal blog, a personal website, or something. I've given this piece of advice so many times to college students because in technology, we're very fortunate to be able to get our own experience and to learn our own, learn how to build the tools that we want to build through so many online resources and so many free tools that we can use to build things, which is one thing that I really love about this industry. So make sure, if you are really looking for what can I do to just get started, what can I do to stand out, find something to build that solves somebody's problem and write about what you build. So that's just the last piece that I leave students with and new learners with.
Thanks, Jalen. I love that. And just to kind of build on it, I agree, having that experience to be able to see what it feels like to dive into any of these areas, whether that's through an internship or if your school offers kind of a co-op opportunity where you can work on a project with a company, or just kind of doing a hackathon, a passion project and publishing it, as Jalen mentioned. That's a great way to kind of go from the classroom and see what will this actually look like as a day in the life in this role, and then understand which type of role or discipline you resonate with, what kind of domain or area of technology you're most passionate about, keeping your eye open to kind of what gets you excited. It's a great way to kick off.
And I would add to what Lisa just said, and if you can't find an internship or volunteer, just go out and do it. It doesn't have to be a formal anything. Volunteer, see an item that, in a problem you want to solve, and volunteer to go out and do it and fix it and see what happens.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right, would anybody else, our panelists of experts, like to share?
Sure. Yeah, I would just say that one thing that I wish I had done earlier in my career was look at GitHub, look at what people are doing there, look at people are working on, look at, the mistakes that folks have made and, and things like that. I find it very humbling to have your code and, the work that you do out there, like out in the public. So I would say just, and that's one of the best, especially for those of you who are learning how to code, like just go out there and and take a look at what folks are doing, and feel inspired, and also just coming to things like this to feel inspired, really taking what you're looking at, rewatch the videos and really understand and really like focus in and honestly watch what that person is talking about or focusing on. So that's my advice.
Yeah, I think that is so true, Jasmine, and thank you for that. And thank you to all panelists who have contributed as well. So I think let's go ahead and hand it back over to Morgan to share a little bit more about the resources for career. And again, I want to remind you, you can get in touch with all of us and we can continue the dialogue as well. Over to you, Morgan.
Thanks so much, Justin. That was absolutely amazing. I loved hearing from everybody, and I was just sitting back here like, yeah, I agree with that, or yeah, that's a great piece of advice, or oh, totally, especially like the imposter syndrome one. That's one I go through pretty much every single day. Ornella was talking about different roles that she has had. I'm also on my third role at Microsoft by choice, is because I've actually figured out different things that I like and don't like doing on a day-to-day basis, and that's helped me get to where I am today. And so I really think that all of the advice that you heard today, definitely take to heart and definitely follow up with all of our experts on this panel. They are all phenomenal human beings. They are all very nice and friendly. So please reach out to them, connect on social if you have further questions. I know we didn't get to everybody's questions in the chat today because, to be honest, there were just too many great questions. So we have posted those social media links in the Q&A. And if you are looking to kind of take those next steps beyond reaching out to folks on social media, you can check out the links that should be showing on your screen right now. You can check out opportunities on LinkedIn, of course. If you're wanting to do some learning, like on Microsoft Learn, which is a great free resource, whether you're just starting to learn how to code or whether you're looking to make a transition into a cloud-based role or even something more advanced than that, Microsoft Learn is a great place to start and continue your learning journey. If you are a student that is in higher education, in university, secondary school, or I guess that'd be high school. So essentially, if you're in college, we have this great program called Microsoft Student Ambassadors. We help them learn about technology, and then they go and they help other students learn about technology and are really ambassadors and leaders within their schools and their communities. Applications for that are rolling, and it is a phenomenal program. We would love to work with you more there, so please make sure you apply. And then, of course, our Imagine Cup. We just had our finals. If you didn't get to check out the finals and all of our final projects, please do. They're on the build page. It's a global competition that we host every single year. And as Jalen was mentioning before, you know, if you really want to make an impact and show what you know, solve somebody else's problem, use technology in order to empower others. And that's just what students do in the Imagine Cup. So if you have an idea, make sure you enter the Imagine Cup this next year. And then, of course, our ongoing resources for the Student Zone this year at Microsoft Build. You see the GitHub, the Learn collections, and the sessions there. Thank you so much, once again, all of you, for joining us. We really enjoyed this, and thank you for your patience with some of the technical difficulties we have, but we hope to see you on social media and at our next session here at Build. Thank you. Bye.